This is the story of how a team and a coach developed an unstoppable mindset that launched one of the biggest winter holidays in history. Today's story is called Chasing Your Legacy.
Welcome to the very first holiday season of The Story. Season 5 features 8 stories of trailblazers paired with the beginnings of some of the most famous winter holidays ever. Season 5 of The Story is brought to you exclusively by Salesforce, the world's #1 customer relationship management platform. More than 150,000 businesses are using Salesforce to blaze their own trails to success. The Story is created by our team at Mission.org, a media company and podcast network.
The sun was shining on him. Adrenaline pulsed through his body. Each hair on his neck stood up like soldiers in formation. He scanned from left to right, and around him were 4 of his teammates. Each of the men dug their hands deep into the ground. Dirt caked their hands, arms, and uniforms. The man felt rage in his body, and he felt the same rage radiating from the man kneeling across from him. His opponent had the look that said that he wouldn't let anyone past him. In this game, inches mattered. Each inch was priceless. To the men wearing green and gold, when they stepped on the field, they tuned everything else out in their life. The demands of economics, family, friends, and their culture faded away. Their coach reminded them that anything personal and any of their history or future no longer mattered. The only thing that mattered was each present moment. In the locker room, the coach drilled this philosophy into the heads of his players. The play at hand is the only thing that matters. If you're thinking about the last play or the next play, you're gonna miss the play at hand. He said this often when the men were beaten and tired from the endless days of training camp. When they lost their first game of the season to the 49ers in a heartbreaker 21-20, Coach Lombardi stood tall in the locker room. He told them that once someone makes a commitment to living in the now, he puts the greatest strength in the world behind him. Heart power. Once someone taps into that heart power of living fully in the present moment, nothing will stop them from finding success. The players responded. They had won 8 of their last 9 games, but the upcoming game was different. The day of that big game, they arrived at Memorial Coliseum to play the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs had traveled their own road, fought their own battles, endured wounds, and were fearsome competitors. They arrived in Southern California on that sunny 72-degree day, ready to win. They had suffered only 2 losses so far that year, but those losses motivated them. One of them was in front of a 44,000-person crowd on their home turf, where the Chiefs had lost to the Buffalo Bills. After the game, their coach, Hank Stram, told them never to let an embarrassment happen like that again. This motivated them, but it also stuck many of their mindsets in the past. Now, the Chiefs were facing the Packers. Both teams were evenly matched. On January 15, 1967, in the mild heat of Southern California, the opening whistle blew and kicked off what would be known as the AFL-NFL Championship. Lombardi's Packers jumped out to an early 7-0 lead on a 37-yard touchdown pass from Bart Starr to receiver Max McGee. Kansas City answered with a touchdown pass of their own. The game remained tight going into halftime. The Packers were up by just 4 points, and the men in the locker room were tired. The bruising tackles and bone-jarring hits had weakened their will to fight. Although they were leading, questions of their legacy infiltrated their minds. Would they be remembered as champions? Or were they destined only to be second best, lost to time with all the other almost greats and also-rans? It was at this crucial moment of doubt that the Packers' great motivator and coach Vince Lombardi took center stage. Lombardi was never one to back down from a fight. Some of Lombardi's most famous thoughts on winning, commitment, and excellence came from speeches he gave his men in the locker room, on the practice field, and during interviews with the media. With the Packers only up by 4 at halftime, he told them the secret to an everlasting legacy. "I firmly believe that any man's finest hour, his greatest fulfillment to all he holds dear, is that moment when he has worked his heart out in a good cause and lies exhausted on the field of battle, victorious." The men picked their heads up and sensed it. Victory was near. Some of them adjusted their pads, others tightened the straps on their helmets. Cries of renewed energy filled the locker room, and the Packers headed back onto the field. Green Bay held the Chiefs' offense to just 12 yards in the third quarter. Packers receiver Max McGee caught another touchdown. Soon, the score went from a 4-point difference to a 25-point spread. The final whistle blew. The Packers sealed their victory 35-10. A shade had settled in over the majority of the stadium, but you couldn't tell from the look on Vince Lombardi's face. He was smiling from ear to ear, his tie blowing in the light Santa Ana wind. They were champions. World champions, to be exact. The 1967 AFL-NFL Championship was significant not because the top two teams fought for the title of world champions. Rather, it's remembered because the mindsets and plays of each team sparked what would launch one of the biggest winter holidays in history. This new holiday is an event that happens every year. It brings millions of friends and family together to break bread and maybe some nachos while they watch some of the hardest workers in the world compete for victory. We know this event, what is really a holiday, as the Super Bowl. So why do we call it the Super Bowl anyway? Chiefs owner Lamar Hunt suggested calling this final game the Super Bowl. At first, nobody liked it, and NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle thought that eventually a better title could be coined. But before that could happen, sports writers started calling it the Super Bowl in advance of the inaugural game in January 1967. After that, it stuck, and the rest is history. Later, Lamar Hunt's son explained that the idea came from his Super Bowl toy. The Packers won that first Super Bowl 35-10, and when asked to design the Packers' 1967 Super Bowl ring, Vince Lombardi had it emblazoned with two surprising words. He picked love and character. If there were two words to describe the great Packers teams of the 60s, it was love and character. These two words also epitomize the heart and soul of Lombardi's legacy. Just a few years later, in 1970, at the age of 57, Lombardi would lose a battle off the field. This was his final battle that he fought and lost to cancer. But those who have achieved and created incredible victories, their legacy lives on. Because Lombardi invested so much love and character into those he interacted with, now every year at the Super Bowl, he is remembered in the trophy that is given to the winners. That trophy is known as the Vince Lombardi Trophy. We all want to create this type of virtuous legacy. So what will you do today to create that legacy? How will you invest enough love and character into your pursuits so that others will memorialize your legacy? Are you willing to put in the work, blood, sweat, and tears needed? The task is daunting and not for the faint of heart. But, as Coach Lombardi reminds us, once a man has made a commitment to a way of life, he puts the greatest strength in the world behind him. It's something we call heart power. Once a man has made this commitment, nothing will stop him short of success. That's their story. What's yours going to be?
Thanks for listening to The Story. If you love this and want more, tap subscribe to make sure you don't ever miss an episode. Thanks again to Salesforce for sponsoring this season of The Story. The Story is created by The Mission, your #1 source for accelerated learning. We send out a daily newsletter, operate a network of podcasts and shows, and our brand studio creates sponsorships that drive results for world-class companies like Salesforce. Subscribe and learn more at mission.org.